I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you and welcome everyone. Roll call, Mr. Lombard.
Holm.
Yes.
Odie. Yes. Saxer.
Yes.
Talcott.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented, please.
So moved.
Second.
It's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. No conflict of interest disclosure or waiver requests tonight. That takes us to approval of our regular minutes from October 11th and October 25th. I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented, please.
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. I don't believe there's any community input tonight. That takes us to financial items, bills, and claims.
Getting more into reoccurring type bills. I don't know if the board had any questions. I just had one noted on page 14, the Sioux Falls School District CTE Academy, $53,280. We purchased 40 slots at $26.64 a slot each year. Total bills of $521,000, I believe. Yep, $521,335. $7,000 total advance payment breakdown. $56,000 of pay vouchers. A lot of substitute teaching in that category there. $177,000 of food service bills.
All right, if there's no questions on the bills and claims this evening, I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. That takes us to the financial report. Mr. Lombard, whenever you're ready.
Okay. I was going to mention that, not that anybody finds what I find interesting, but on the bills and claims, that in the months where we have a lot of activities and stuff, I thought it curious that just for officials and workers for each month, we'll spend about $15,000, $16,000 each month on those. I mean, when it's busy, like the last couple months. And that'll probably go up to $20,000 when basketball's going on. Anyhow, cash report for the month of October, $11.8 million coming into the month, $4.5 million receipts, $4.9 million of disbursements, left almost $11.5 million in cash, of $6,867,000 when it was in the general fund, $3,259,000 in the capital outlay fund, $750,000 in the special education fund, $70,000 in the bond redemption fund, and $527,000 in the capital projects fund. The $4,500,000 is itemized on the next two pages. There were two state aid payments in the month of October, $1.8 million. The investment report for the month of October showed $1,285,000. All of our securities have been dispersed and cashed out, our treasury certificates, so that's just a little bit of money left in the money market fund. That'll be closed out here pretty quickly. Payroll and benefits summary for the month of October was higher, $2,761,000. About $500,000 of that was for COVID stipends. In the actual financial statements, the revenue report, 33%, 1/3 of the way done with the fiscal year. As I always said, the revenue reports don't have a lot of meaning until we get through to about December. The expenditure reports, the general fund, first page, it's right at 33.5% for this fiscal year. Capital outlay fund is at 54% expended, which is normal. Capital outlay fund is very front-end loaded. The special education fund is 30.5%. Bond redemption fund is 30% versus 41.5% last year. Mainly we don't have one of the payments anymore, the Robert Bennis Elementary payment. Food service fund shows a accrued profit of $375,000. All of that is coming from federal reimbursements. And lastly, the trust and agency statement, or I guess not lastly, the trust and agency statement shows a balance of $264,000. And lastly, the capital project fund is nearing the end. The architect and contractor missed the deadline on their last payment for this month, so you'll see that next month. As I said before, it should end up around $400,000 to the net surplus on that project. Any questions, anybody?
Mr. Lundberg, surplus in terms of the capital project reverts to capital outlay?
Correct. Correct. That'll dump into the capital outlay.
Are we really already a third of the way through the year?
All right, if there are no questions on the financial report tonight, I would entertain a motion to approve that as presented, please.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
General business. First thing we have under is administration reports. Administrative Center Superintendent Larson.
Madam Chair, thank you for the time. I have just a few brief things to update you on here this evening. Our COVID-19 information website maintains our centralized communication hub. No changes to that. The only item that I would note is that the COVID-19 vaccination is now available for children ages 5 to 11. We are encouraging families to communicate with their primary care provider and make the right personal choice for their situation. Our gifted ed and fourth grade orchestra programming work group process is completed. We're in the process of finalizing that report. I anticipate having that recommendation to you by our last meeting here in November. Entry-level driver training. Just want to give you a heads up as you'll be seeing a few items come through over the course of the next few months with this. This is a future federal requirement for school bus drivers. I would tell you it's not a big deal. It's just an item to note. This will formalize our current training procedure, and it requires submission of documentation. So before you even go take your CDL test, you have to have a documented entry-level driver training completed. So we're in the process of working through that. It becomes effective February 7th. Certainly relevant to note that all drivers that are CDL drivers prior to that date are grandfathered in, and there's nothing for them to do. It's only folks that pursue their CDL after that respective date. At an upcoming meeting, we will be approving an entry-level driver training wage for like an individual that works just as a driver, but would service as an entry-level driver trainer that will go into the formal system. So we'll be doing that at an upcoming meeting here in the next couple months. Our District 10 and 25 legislative breakfast is scheduled for December 8th at 7:30 a.m. Please mark your calendars. We have representatives from the BVA as well as the central office, and then of course the Board of Education will be meeting with 10 and 25 legislators to discuss priorities for the upcoming session. School calendar items to note: no school this Thursday as we celebrate and honor our nation's veterans. Thanksgiving break is December 24th to the 26th. Winter break begins on December 22nd with a 2-hour early dismissal and runs through January 2nd with school resuming on the 3rd. You guys are well aware of the high school addition priorities. You've seen this image prior to. Would tell you that we remain on track in terms of our schedule, so we're looking to have those bid docs released in early January. Mid-February, those bids come back due, and ultimately looking for to award a bid at our first meeting in February. Various communications have been and continue to be utilized: classified council meeting, teacher liaison council meeting. I'll be meeting with the entire high school staff coming up here in the very near future. In addition to that, we had a chamber event where we were able to share information about the about the project. And then we also kicked out just a high-level overview for our patrons via an informational video, just so that they had an idea of what was coming in terms of that high school edition. So that's out and about. Again, a couple of high-level overviews of where that project is. We've talked about the east side. Here you can see it on an overall site plan. The east side is where that single-story addition comes on. Northeast corner is a two-story addition. There's a few areas within the project that we're looking to renovate, as well as like the addition to the weight room and storage area. That'll be an add alternate to note. So once we have a meeting date with our architects, we're still waiting on that formalized meeting date for them. Right now, we're really working on tightening the screws and the bolts on some of the electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, those various things. Once we have that date scheduled, we'll get that to our Buildings and Grounds Committee. With that, that's all I have this evening. Certainly would entertain any questions the board has.
Mine is just more of a comment. There's been a lot of positive comments made about on the menu that was presented, as well as what was done during the football game. So a few questions of, well, if we missed those, where can we hear? And obviously the video still is online. So just really appreciate the constant communication around upcoming building projects. And obviously our 2040 vision also gives further out. So I just appreciate the constant communication around that.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Larson. Mr. Lundberg, anything additional tonight? Thank you. Mr. Schleckaway?
I'm moving it to Mr. Freckman a little later on.
Okay.
Great here on that.
Mrs. Moore, Mr. Paula, Mr. Thorson. Okay, Dr. Nelson. Guys are, Mr. Skipstead, Mr. Pearson, Mrs. Otime? No? Mr. Horst? Mrs. Nelson? Mr. Henschel? Mr. Frecky?
Well, first of all, I wanted to give a recap on everything that's been going on this fall for the sports and activities that have been happening here at the high school. Just kind of go in alphabetical order. That way I hopefully don't forget anybody, and I'm blaming Marso if I do. So, competitive cheer. Our competitive cheer team started and worked really hard all season long, kind of had their ups and downs early in the year. They finished third at the ESD and then fifth at state tournament. This team was led by only one senior, Emily Sample, and the rest of them were underclassmen. So great start for that group of athletes. Competitive dance. Their season was extremely successful. They finished first in basically, were undefeated in pom and jazz all season long. And if you didn't get the opportunity to see their pom and jazz team performances, especially their jazz, it was extraordinary. For two guys, Mr. Schleckaway and myself, that really know nothing about dance, and we're talking about it later on, that really probably left an impact. So they won their first ESD conference, or excuse me, they won the ESD conference for the 9th time, in addition to the first time ever winning the Metro Conference. The BDV dance team also took first place in pom and jazz division at state, and then they were the overall grand champions for state. So great job for the dance team. Cross-country teams, the boys were able to finish third at our ESD conference meet and fourth at the Metro Conference. Ben Vanderberg was all-state top 25 at the state meet there. The girls cross-country team had a successful season. They were very competitive all year long. They finished first at our ESD conference here at McCarty Park. In addition, they placed second at the Metro. And at state meet, they finished fourth, but they were out of second place by only 3 points. So separated second, third, and fourth. So very competitive with those young ladies. Addison Skolton and Mia Wincy earned all state top 25 honors. This week, very busy at the high school. Fall play kicks off. Adventures Through Wonderland opens this Thursday, November 11th at 7. Subsequent dates for their performances are Friday at 7 o'clock, Saturday at 1 o'clock. That would be a little bit different due to the football game. And then Sunday at 1 o'clock as well. Seats are $5 each. For general admission, BV passes are accepted. Please contact the office if you have any more details on that. The boys golf team, all year long, they were working on progressing on getting better. They finished the ESD meet 6th. At the Metro meet, they finished 5th, and at the state meet, when the Lynx were going in, they were projected to finish 9th at the state meet. They proceeded to have their best showings of the year and finished 5th and got a place at the podium, bringing home an award there. Logan Kelling and finished 9th, and Owen Sanders was 16th. Our soccer boys team finished the season at 4-9-2. They finished 5th in the Metro Conference and 4th in the ESD. However, our team was the only team all year long to beat the eventual champions, Yankton, who took home the state championship. So that was kind of a little bit of feather in their cap. Our girls finished 12-2-1, which was the best finish in BB history. And then the team also won their first ever ESD title in that program's history. So softball team worked really hard all season long. They had a lot of senior leadership. They just had a lot of times the ball didn't bounce their way. But we did have several girls nominated for all conference and all state honors in there. Our girls tennis team only had 2 seniors, but they worked really hard throughout the season, developed all year long. Michaela Jerky and Marie Peltier in the first flight doubles finished 3rd at the state tournament. That was the best finish of a Flight 1 doubles team in Brandon Valley history. The volleyball team currently getting ready for postseason play. We host the Rapid City Stevens Raiders on this Thursday. That time is at 6 o'clock to help Rapid City get back home in a decent hour. The Lynx finished the regular season 21-9. They finished the ESD with a record of 7-1, which tied for ESD, the first ever ESD conference title for them. So with that, I think I'm missing somebody. One more page somewhere. Oh, band. How could I forget the band? The band had their marching Lynx, had one of the best seasons ever. They took first place in nearly every competition they attended this fall and took home many caption awards for the best winds, percussions, color guard, visual, and effect. The marching Lynx have a rich tradition of excellence, and this was surely a display this year. Their show, Live by the Sword, was popular among the fans and the judges alike, and if you didn't get a chance to see that, another thing you missed out on. With that, we have one more thing. The football team has their playoff. They finished 8-1 this season. They won their first 2 playoff games over Jefferson and O'Gorman, and will be in the state title game this coming Saturday at 7:30. Tickets are on sale right now through the South USD ticket office. The process is being cleaned up. It was a little rocky this morning, but I think they got it figured out. And there's a bunch of t-shirt sales and a lot of things, so check out the high school website for that information that you may be looking for t-shirt sales or just different things the football program is doing. So with that, I'll entertain any questions, and hopefully I didn't miss anybody.
Mr. Frecking, thank you for the
Yeah.
overview of everything. It's wonderful to hear about the success. We hear snippets of it here and there, but to have it all in one lump sum is somewhat overwhelming, but it's so much filled with pride for Brandon Valley, so thank you for that.
You bet.
And a huge shout out. I know that you and Mr. Steckway and everyone else is always thanking the coaches and the staff for all that they're doing to support our athletes. So just again, a huge support from us as board members, and to the parents and the booster. I know it's just been a phenomenal fall and winter, so just thank you from all of us.
And when he comments about the dance team being so good, I got goosebumps. That was the only way I could describe I mean, it was unbelievable. And I am another one of those folks who know nothing about dance, so it was powerful, that group. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Frecking. Appreciate the fall wrap up. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to get into the State of the Schools address, talk a little bit about some accountability data, some facilities update, and then just give you a high-level update on our strategic plan as well. An item that we always talk about is the processes that we utilize in terms of student achievement and improvement. Our ultimate goal is student learning and improved academic performance. When I think about the state assessment, I think about the process really surrounding report, assess, review, and that is a high-level overview of what the state assessment means for us as a district. Right now, we would be in that report phase. Later this April, we'll move into that assess phase, and then from the return of that information and data through the summer to till the report phase, we continue to move through that process. At a little lower level, when you think about how the Smarter Balanced Assessment informs instruction instruction, curriculum instruction, planning and design. You know, that really begins the process. Our district informative assessment tools. So you might hear about DIBELS or AR or any of those number of types of assessments. Some are obviously teacher-created assessments that inform instruction. Those assessments are given, that data is utilized to drive instruction, which will lead us to that April state assessment time. We review and reflect on that data, which goes back into the cycle of curriculum and instruction planning and design. So obviously it's very, very process orientated when we think about the review and reflection of data. So SPIs. This school year, for the data that you are going to be taking a look at, there were disruptions associated with the accountability data and the process because of COVID-19. Really important to note, like for example, our high school, one item that I would note, when we look at our college and career readiness percentages online, we weren't able to administer the NCRC, which is a career readiness component of the SPI. So that's an example of how COVID-19 was a bit of a disruption in terms of the ability to complete items in relation to the school performance index. The other piece of it is some of the data is not reportable from the state, and you'd see that if you went on the state website and reviewed various school and district information. So some items to note: SPIs were not given this school year, so you didn't get a quote-unquote number like you would have in previous years. And in addition to that, your support status is unchanged for the second year in a row. I believe it's the second year in a row. And that's like the Title I status of what type of improvement you're on, school improvement you're on. That remains unchanged because of COVID-19. So I want to provide just some high-level numbers in terms of ELA and mathematics. This is perhaps one of the most important fundamental slides that you will see, and the reason I say that is we know that our focus and our emphasis on literacy, reading instruction, and reading proficiency drives so many results, and it's a foundational component of school success. So when you look at our ELA results, 22% of our students are proficient or advanced in comparison to the state of South Dakota when you look at those third and fourth grade ELA scores. And then obviously you can see the mathematics scores there. Our population is running at 64.5% proficient or advanced. That's what those percentages are in relation to the state of South Dakota. Intermediate school, when you break that down, you can see that we're 14.5% higher in terms of percentage of students proficient or advanced in ELA, and then nearly 20 in mathematics. Middle school ELA, you are looking at approximately 18%, 71.5%. Percent of our 7th and 8th graders were proficient or advanced in ELA. In comparison to the state, we're just about 54%. You can see in the mathematics component at our middle school, we're 16% of our students proficient or advanced in comparison to the state of South Dakota. So obviously, outstanding work done by staff leadership within our system. High school ELA and math. Our ELA scores this year were off the charts in terms of our high school ELA percentage of students proficient or advanced. It was really a strong year in terms of ELA performance. And then obviously you can see our math scores obviously were also very good. So want to note that. English language learner progress. This is an important item to note because this is becoming a larger portion of the school performance index than in previous years, so it is certainly an item that we keep an eye on. I would note that 56% of our ELL kids are on track to exit that program on time. In comparison, state of South Dakota, 39% of ELL kiddos are on track to exit that program. So again, good data. ACT data. Again, this is just a high-level look at when you take a glance at the composite. You can see over 3 points higher than the national average, and nearly 2 when you compare Brandon Valley High School ACT results to the state of South Dakota. So, Mr. Schleckaway and his staff do a great job of charting out a lot of information that they post in terms of Brandon Valley High School and the ESD and the metro area schools and comparisons. This would just be a high level of the United States, South Dakota, and Brandon Valley in terms of ACT information. Graduation rate or completion rate, 96% of our seniors graduated on time. That's what they call the 4-year cohort or on-time graduation. And then 99% of our students complete in comparison to the state information there. I just want to note that these results are the result of preparing for the future together. And when we talk about school success and what makes schools successful and able to have that success, obviously it is our teaching staff, it's our building level of leadership, it's our support staff within those schools, but it is parents and actively engaged adults in our kiddos' lives, as well as a community with high expectations. Those are the things that yield this incredible success. So again, it's great data. It certainly points to the great work being done within our school buildings, but it is certainly an effort that all of us, every single one of us within the school community are responsible for. So certainly appreciate all of the work on our staff, by our staff, but also the support and the engagement with our parents, and then also certainly the community, and of course the kids, for putting forth a great effort when it comes time for that assessment. Facilities update. This would give you, again, just a high-level look at current numbers in terms of usage or utilization. You can see Brandon Elementary has 718 kiddos in it. That's including that early childhood program. Fred Assam is at 439. Inspiration is at 235. Robert Bennis Elementary is at 575. Valley Springs is at 87. So I'm going to just point to a couple of items. When you look at the elementaries specifically, a majority of those inspiration students came out of Fred Assam. That was, if you look back historically at our information, Fred Assam was inching up to that 600 mark. So when we built inspiration, that pulled a lot of capacity out of Fred. It also pulled a little capacity out of Valley Springs when we altered those boundary lines, because we wanted to look to alter those boundary lines in a way where when we needed to alter them the next time, we affected fewer people. So we really try to think strategically about the boundary lines that we created when we developed Inspiration's boundary. The other item we need to draw your attention to is Robert Bennis Elementary, 575. We have that capacity at 625 students right now. Long story short, if you look at a lot of our previous information, you would see Robert Bennis is listed as a 600-student school. We're able to inch that to 625 by utilizing our orchestra room as our elementary art room, so that can have kids in it all day long, and that allows us to use our elementary art room as a regular classroom. So that's how we are managing that population down there, and we've granted ourselves a little bit more time when we think about Robert Bennis Elementary continuing to grow and us needing to build an elementary school on the east side of Brandon here. Intermediate school, 710 students. Middle school, 707 students. The high school is at 1306, actually a few less than they had last fall. But as you look at our graduating class and what we bring in as far as freshmen go, they will continue to obviously see growth at the high school, which is the reason for the high school addition being necessary. So the Distance Learning Academy is noted for your information. That is at 70 students. We have 21 or 22 elementary kiddos, and then we have just a handful of intermediate and a handful of middle school kiddos, and then we have 30 plus high school students. So that's the general breakdown of the Distance Learning Academy. And then you can see, obviously, we have almost 60 students placed out of district in both general and SPED placements, Teach Well, Lifescape Children's Home, etc. Strategic plan review, just want to note we have five specific components within our strategic plan. We are in, I believe, year 3 of that plan, so we will begin to formulate our process for reviewing that plan, revising that plan, and ultimately looking at potential action strategies to engage with if that plan is altered. So when we talk about student achievement, again, high-level overview, I want to point to the importance of our reading protocol, our Walk to Read program, our utilization of data at both the district and the building level. Specifically, reading interventionists, when I think about how we are spending some of those ESSER funds and how it's aligned to our strategic plan, this is a prime time example of that. And then would just note our distance learning program is in its 2nd year. I've been asked if that will continue or if it will cease. I think that it's probably too early to say right now, and what we'll do is we will evaluate that as we get closer to 3rd quarter on whether or not that's a program that we want to continue to offer. Character development, again, some very traditional ways of ensuring that we work to provide the best character education that we can. Challenge Day, Unity Day, our K-12 character program, the Links Way, our tradition of giving, and then of course building level strategies that our administration utilized to promote that character. Staff development, just want to note that we have a staff development team that plays a critical part in the development of professional development within the system. We have credit granting opportunities, we have CEU granting opportunities, building-led PD, so like this year specifically, folks were able to be responsive to their needs and incorporate the professional development that they felt was in their building's best interest, or level's best interest, I should say, and then obviously student-led data. Work environment, we as an administrative team continually work to create a great work environment, and that happens through an administrative challenge. In addition to that, we utilize BV Listens, which is our staff work environment survey. We will be conducting that survey again this year. It will be disseminated to staff in December and due in the middle of January. So that's a biennial survey that we do every other year, and that will be done this year as well. So in addition to that, obviously top quality compensation, and then I'd be remiss in my duties if I didn't applaud the Board of Education's utilization of our COVID-19 funds and how appreciative our staff has been of us recognizing their work and effort and challenge and putting them as a priority within those dollars. Facilities and operation, obviously annual budget allocations, 5-year plans, that'll be a big component of what you guys hear about here in the coming months. BV Vision 2040, our long-range facility plan, and then obviously our maintenance schedules, which are critically important as we continue to manage our facilities so that they can have long life expectancies. Growth management, our boundary line committee again created those boundaries that align to future growth and future buildings. Our facility review committee process that we utilize when triggers are hit. 5-year plans, and again, BV Vision 2040. Fiscal responsibility, we certainly practice effective and efficient and sustainable business processes and practices. The annual budget process, the annual audit, growth projections, 5-year plans, all of those items incredibly important. Would note our fund balance management is something that we take great pride in. Both at the general fund level, we work to make certain that stays at a reasonable amount, which is certainly important. In addition to that, our capital outlay fund balance, which we strategically utilize to pay for the Brandon Valley High School Building Addition when you look at your 5-year plans, and the annual budget process. That's a fund balance management item that is incredibly valuable to the school district. And then obviously that's an ongoing thing when we think about fund balance. Special education, approximately 5 years ago, had nearly no fund balance, and we set the target to get that up to that 15% range, and we are either there or nearly there. So those are all critically important items to our our component of fiscal responsibility. Parent-community relations, obviously it was challenging these last few years when we talk about engaging with parents and community, but we have done a number of things to engage with our parents and our community. You know, one district, one book, when we think about the project surrounding the coffee bean, that obviously hit this strategic goal right on the money. Building level parent-teacher conference strategies. You know, I work with our administration. We talk about how can we engage with our parents in a really meaningful way at the parent-teacher conference level. And then obviously we utilize focus groups for a number of work groups. Our PTAs and our PTOs are actively engaged with our schools, and certainly a valuable resource for our buildings. So number of items under community engagement that I would say kind of took a back seat. We were really ramping up the internship conversation 2 years ago, and now I would say we're in the process of revitalizing those communications and those conversations within our community. So look forward to having more of that here in the course of the coming years. So certainly want to be cognizant of time, but with that would certainly entertain any questions you have. If you are really interested in diving into assessment data, the South Dakota Department of Education report card has a ton of information, and you can break it down in a wide number of ways. So with that, entertain any questions you have. As always, if you have any, feel free to let me know.
Sorry, we're a quiet group tonight. Thank you, Superintendent Larson, for that 2021 State of the Schools address. Appreciate it. Number 2, under general business, ASBSD standing positions and legislative resolutions.
Madam Chair, I would just note that these would be the ASBSD standing positions and legislative resolutions that Member Saxer and Member Scott will go work with when they go to peer for delegate assembly. I would say that our priorities as a school district at this point really surround funding of education and our CPI and some conversation around the rate of inflation, and we really need funds to flow to schools. In addition to that, local control and maintaining local control is going to be critically important. But wanted to put this on the agenda. Member Saxer can certainly provide an update and an overview, and go from there.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. There's a lot here. The 12 standing positions really haven't changed too much. There's a few grammatical changes. Really what we're focused on is the 40-plus resolutions that are on the table. What they will ask from Member Scott, as I'm there just to support, is for support for those resolutions, but also at the end, what are the priorities for the ASBSD as they go into the legislative session? So just discussing and just wanting to make sure if you have any questions, you can sure ask those. But to support what Dr. Larson just said, first and foremost is really looking at C6, which you'll find in your packet, and that's all around how we're going to factor the CPI and making sure that we get the funding that is necessary for teachers and our school district. A4 really supports that continual funding. We want to make sure we attract teachers for South Dakota, as well as B4 is we do not want to divert any funds that should be going towards public education. So those are kind of all lumped together as we just want to make sure it's funding coming to education, public education. And then for us, just having that, always wanting to support our teachers and our staff. The second priority really is around what I've talked about before. It's B12 around school elections. We really want to ask that that's a local decision rather than being state-led. So that's something that we'll also make as a priority, hopefully, when we go to the delegate assembly. And then number 3 as a priority for us is A6, which really focuses on curriculum adoption. Currently, the state law states that the state is not involved in curriculum. That is a local decision as well. So we just want to continue to support that. Any curriculum that may be up for discussion is kept at a local decision. Other things that may be hot topics is B9, which is under mental health money. Not that it's not a priority, but we just don't want to divide all the funds. We'd just rather get it all diverted into that general fund, and then as we want with a local decision. And then D3 talks about the medical marijuana or marijuana overall, and the tax to education. It's a priority. We just don't know if we're actually going to see any of that money, so we don't want to make it a priority fighting for what may not be there. So, any questions that I can answer at this time? Concerns about what the priorities may be at this time? All right. If you have any, you know that you can always reach out, and I will make sure that you talk to Member Scott, not myself.
This is just an information only, no action on this one. Okay. Thank you. Just to clarify, I saw a lot of red and I'm like, oh, when I was reading through it earlier. But thank you very much. All right, next, under the consent general business, I have items 1 through 4. I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented, please.
So moved. Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Personnel, I would entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 11.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. There are a couple information only for transfers there for you to look at. Under communications, central office, there are some building permits if you're interested. Board of Education, we have one thank you there for your review. And that takes us to board reports. Does anyone have a formal board report that they would like to share tonight? All right, hearing none. Travel reports, there is a travel report there for your review. Otherwise, that looks like it takes us to the end of our scheduled agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.